I'm a married man. I was happy with my wife, Carol, but I had these needs that she couldn't fulfill. Our love life was pretty boring. I went online and satisfied my urges that way, mostly through chats and stuff. That's how I met Veronica. We hit it off instantly. She was a very imaginative person, and we did a bunch of roleplay. I won't go into specifics. Eventually, we started meeting in person. She lived one town over, and I actually own property over there, so we used my second apartment as a place to meet. She was married too, so we had to be careful. This went on for a couple months, and it was incredible. My nights with Veronica were full of passion and excitement. We special ordered all kinds of costumes and devices, and we tried a little bit of everything. Carol had no idea. She could tell that I was happier overall, but she never seemed to suspect a thing. I just told her I had to travel a lot for work. Sure, I felt a little guilty, but it was worth it. Until that terrible night a few weeks ago, when everything went up in flames. Literally. Veronica had suggested some fire-based roleplay. That's all she told me beforehand. I had no idea what to expect. When I arrived at the apartment, she was wearing this wild orange and red costume. She was a fire goddess. She got a costume for me too, a volcano. It was surprisingly comfortable. As I put it on, she lit candles all around the apartment. There were hundreds of them on the floor and shelves. It was very romantic. I stepped out in my costume, and she ushered me across the room like the goddess she was. The flames lit up her beautiful face. I was so turned on. Then she pulled me onto the bed. There was a platter of cheeses next to us, and we fed each other as we got into character. She made up this backstory where she was a virgin sacrificed to the volcano, and now she was a fire spirit. Something like that. I don't quite remember, considering what happened next, but it was interesting. Veronica was always good at improvising. Before we really got going, I heard a skittering noise behind me. Our cheese platter had attracted a mouse, and it was running across the floor. It started squeaking horribly, and Veronica looked terrified. I couldn't turn my head all the way around because of the costume, but pretty soon I saw it. The poor mouse had gotten too close to the candles. It was on fire, racing around the room like a little fireball. Pretty soon, flames were everywhere, and that mouse jumped onto the bed, spreading fire onto the sheets. My costume was thick and rubber, so I was protected, but Veronica's draping fabric was very flammable. Pretty soon, her whole costume was consumed. She jumped off the bed, trying to tear off her clothes. "Stop, drop, and roll, Veronica! Stop, drop, and roll!" She was too panicked to listen. She thrashed around, which only spread the fire more. The sliding door to the balcony was wide open. I watched in horror as my mistress stumbled onto the balcony as she patted at her burning body. In seconds, she toppled over the edge. No! We were on the second story, so I wasn't sure if she survived the fall. All I knew was that the fire was everywhere now, and I needed to get out of the apartment. I tried to look through the smoke, but I could barely see. I couldn't breathe at all. Flames were blocking the exit and getting closer. There was only one escape now. I had to jump off the balcony too. Moving on instinct, I ran through the smoke and got to the edge. I could see Veronica's body on the ground below. She wasn't on fire anymore, but her costume was black and melted into her skin. She looked horrible, and one of her feet was bent to the side, clearly broken. But she was moving, so at least she was still alive. I could feel the heat against my back. I didn't have much time left. I took a deep breath and jumped. When I landed next to Veronica, it didn't hurt at all. My thick costume protected me in the fall. In fact, I bounced a little. I had to breathe deeply because of all the smoke inhalation, but otherwise I was totally fine. Veronica looked awful, and I didn't have a scratch on me. "Are you okay?" "What do you think?" I looked up at the apartment and saw that the smoke was gone. The sprinkler system must have switched on seconds after I jumped. An ambulance came to pick up Veronica, and the fire department went upstairs to check out the damage. I took off my volcano costume and the paramedics checked me out. They said I was fine, but they gave me some judgmental looks as they took Veronica away. I changed into my spare clothes from my car and was about to drive to the hospital to check on Veronica, when all of a sudden I saw my wife's car in the parking lot. She got out and ran toward me. "Are you okay? I heard your apartment caught fire." I didn't know what to say. I was so shocked to see her that I didn't ask her how she heard about the fire. I obviously couldn't go to the hospital now. I hugged Carol and started crying. She told me everything was going to be okay, that we could just go home and forget this ever happened. The insurance company would pay for the repairs and we'd never have to speak of this again. I kept thinking about poor Veronica, with her broken ankle and the burns all over her body, but I didn't say anything. I just let Carol comfort me. What do you say, honey? Let's never mention this night again. Promise me? I promise. As I said that, I noticed something in the back seat of her car. It was a little crate, the kind meant to carry mice.
The silence in my house usually felt peaceful, but that night it felt like holding my breath underwater. I lived in a sprawling ranch-style place at the end of a cul-de-sac. Great for privacy, terrible for when things went sideways. I had listed an old 55-inch plasma TV on Craigslist. It was a relic, heavy as a tombstone, and I just wanted it gone to make room for a sleek new OLED. The ad was simple. Free to a good home. U-Haul. I got a bite from a woman named Carla. Her texts were polite, bordering on overly eager. We set a time for 6 p.m. I moved the beast of a TV into the living room, wiped the screen down, and waited. 6 p.m. came and went. By 7:30, I was annoyed. By 8 o'clock, I had written her off and cracked a beer, sinking into the sofa to watch the news. Then my phone buzzed. Carla. I am so sorry. Work ran crazy late. Can I still come? I looked at the time. It was nearly 10 p.m. My gut said no. My gut said, tell her to kick rocks and repost it tomorrow. But the logical, impatient part of my brain just wanted the clutter out of my house. Me. It's pretty late. Can you be here in 10 minutes? Carla. Yes, leaving now. GPS says 10 minutes. I sighed, draining the last of my beer. All right, I muttered to the empty room. 10 minutes. 20 minutes bled by. Me. You coming? I'm about to head to bed. Carla. Traffic was bad. 10 more minutes. Promise. I paced the kitchen. It was 10:45 p.m. Who picks up a used TV at nearly 11 at night? At 11 p.m., I'd had enough. I grabbed my phone, thumbs flying. Me. Look, let's just do this tomorrow or forget it. It's too late. 3 dots rippled on the screen immediately. Carla. Just pulling up. Don't close the door. I walked to the front window and peered through the blinds. Headlights swept across my front lawn, blindingly bright, cutting through the pitch black of the cul-de-sac. I unlocked the front door and stepped onto the porch, leaving the storm door latched. The car's engine cut out, but the headlights stayed on, blinding me. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. David? She called out. Yeah, TV's just inside the entry. It's heavy, though. Great, great, she said, walking toward the porch. Then, the passenger door opened. My stomach dropped. A man climbed out. He was big, tall, muscular. He didn't look at me. He looked at the house. Then the back door opened. Another guy. This one was skinnier, twitchy, smoking a cigarette that glowed angry red in the dark. Whoa, hold on. The woman reached the steps. The 2 men flanked her, lingering back near the bumper of the car. It felt tactical. It felt practiced. What's going on? I asked. We're here for the unit, Carla said, smiling. It wasn't a nice smile. It was tight, showing too many teeth. You didn't say you were bringing a moving crew. I told you only you come in. They're just here to help lift it. And we want to see the entertainment center, too. I froze. The what? The entertainment center. The ad said TV and stand. No, it didn't. Just the TV. And I'm not letting 3 people into my house at 11 o'clock at night. The skinny guy flicked his cigarette butt onto my driveway. A spark shower erupted and died. We drove 40 minutes, man. We just want to see the gear. The deal was for the TV. I told her, looking only at Carla. And the deal was you. If you want it, you come in alone. They stay in the car. She crossed her arms, her demeanor shifting instantly from apologetic to hostile. I can't lift it alone. I need at least one other person's opinion on the condition. Opinion? It's free. It turns on. That's the condition. Take it or leave it. You're being unreasonable. She took a step up the porch. I instinctively checked the lock on the storm door. It was engaged. I'm being safe. I live alone. I don't know you. You show up 2 hours late with 2 random dudes? No way. Deal's off. The big guy took a step forward. He wasn't looking at the TV anymore. He was looking at the windows, scanning the perimeter of the house. Come on, David. We just need to check it out. Don't be an ass. I asked you to leave, I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. Now. She stared at me, her eyes hard. Wow, she said, shaking her head with exaggerated disappointment. That is not being a very good American, is it? Turning away people in need. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. I'm fine with that. Get off my property. You serious? The skinny guy yelled from the driveway. We came all this way! I'm calling the cops in 30 seconds, I said, keeping my voice level, though my hands were shaking. Get in the car. Carla glared at me, muttering something under her breath that sounded like prick, then spun around. Let's go, she yelled to the guys. I didn't wait for them to move. I stepped back inside, slammed the main door, and threw the deadbolt. I locked the handle, and then I engaged the chain. My heart was racing like a trapped bird. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife. Useless, I knew, but it felt better than nothing, and killed the porch light so that they couldn't see inside. I crept to the side of the window, peeling back the edge of the blind just an inch. They hadn't left. They were standing by the car, arguing. The skinny guy was gesturing wildly at the house. Carla was on her phone, typing furiously. Then, the big guy walked over to the edge of my driveway, right near where my mailbox stood. He looked directly at the house, unzipped his pants, and started pissing right onto the pavement. He just stood there, relieving himself, staring at my dark window like he knew exactly where I was standing. Unbelievable, I whispered. After he finished, he shook himself off, zipped up, and lumbered back to the car. They all piled in. The engine roared to life, and they reversed aggressively, tires screeching against the asphalt. They peeled out of the cul-de-sac, taillights disappearing into the night. I stood there for a long time, watching the empty street. I checked every window in the house. I checked the back door. I checked the garage. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with the lights off, watching the driveway, the old plasma TV sitting dark and heavy in the corner. It wasn't just a flaky buyer. It was a casing. They wanted inside. They wanted to see the layout, see what else I had, see if I really was alone. The next morning, I dragged the TV to the curb with a free sign taped to the glass. It was gone in an hour. I turned 30 in the middle of a heat wave in Austin. My coworker Jenna threw me a little party at her apartment on Riverside. Cheap tequila, a sheet cake from H-E-B, and one real gift that made me gasp. A bottle of Blanton's, the one with the little horse on top. It wasn't even wrapped right. She just slapped a red bow on it and said, "Happy birthday, bitch. Don't share it with anyone who doesn't deserve you." I carried that bottle home like it was made of glass eggs. My roommate, Caleb, was sprawled out on the couch in his boxers playing Call of Duty. He glanced up when I walked in. "Damn, somebody loves you," he said, eyeing the Blantons. "Yeah, don't get any ideas," I laughed. setting it on the highest shelf in the kitchen, the one I have to stand on a chair to reach. That is for special occasions only. He raised both hands. Scout's honor. 2 days later, I flew to Denver for my cousin's wedding. I was gone 4 nights. When I got back, Caleb was passed out on the couch with the TV still on. I went to the kitchen to make coffee and reached for the bottle, just to look at it, you know? It felt lighter. I unscrewed the cap. The color was wrong. Too pale. I took a sniff. I poured a splash into a glass. It looked like weak tea. "Caleb," I said, shaking his shoulder, "wake up." He groaned, rubbed his face. Ugh, what time is it? "Did you drink my birthday whiskey?" He blinked at me, confused, like I'd asked if he'd murdered someone. "What? No. Caleb, it's half gone and filled with water. Like a child." He sat up. "I swear to God, Liv, I didn't touch it. You're the only other person here." "Maybe it evaporated?" He tried to grin. I held up the bottle. "Evaporated into tap water?" He looked away. I might have had a little. I don't remember. Things have been blurry. "Half the bottle is not a little." "I'll buy you another one," he mumbled. "With what? Your dad's savings?" That was mean, but I was shaking. That bottle was the one nice thing anyone had done for me all year. He didn't replace it. Of course he didn't. A month later, he got the DUI. Came home at 3 a.m., told me the cops took his license on the spot. His parents wired him money for a lawyer, but the job that he'd had at the tech startup let him go the next week. Budget cuts, they said. But we both knew it was the DUI. That's when the real drinking started. He'd wake up, crack a beer, play Xbox, pass out, repeat. Our apartment turned into a landfill of pizza boxes and empty handles of Evan Williams. I'd come home from work and find him on the balcony smoking, eyes red, telling me the world was rigged. "You don't get it, Liv," he slurred one night. "I'm done. Completely done." I was tired. "We're all done, Caleb. Put your half of rent in my account like a grown-up." He nodded like he meant it. He didn't. I didn't notice for months. I was working 60-hour weeks at the marketing agency, trying to get promoted so I could finally move out. I paid my half of the rent on the first of every month like clockwork. I assumed he did too. Then the eviction notice came. It was taped to our door in a bright orange envelope. 3 months behind, $4,800 owed. Final notice before lockout. I stood in the hallway reading it 3 times, heart hammering so hard I thought I'd throw up. I called the leasing office. The woman was kind but firm. "Both names are on the lease, ma'am. You're jointly and severally liable." I stormed inside. Caleb was on the couch, eyes glued to the TV. "Did you know about this?" I threw the notice at him. It fluttered onto his chest. He looked down, read the big red letters. "That's your response?" I thought I paid October. Maybe. You thought? Jesus Christ, Caleb! I used the rent money for my car payment. I was gonna be homeless without a car, Liv. I was gonna catch up. I wanted to kill him. I really did. Instead, I called his mom. "Mrs. Dawson, it's Olivia, Caleb's roommate." I laid it all out. DUI, drinking, stolen rent money, eviction. She was quiet the whole time. And then she said, "I'll wire the back rent today. I'm so sorry, honey." They paid it. All $4,800. The leasing office filed the eviction anyway because the process had already started. I begged. I cried in the manager's office like a lunatic. They gave me a letter stating that the balance was paid in full and we were never actually removed from the premises. It's the only thing that saved me from sleeping in my car. I moved out 2 weeks later, packed my stuff while Caleb sat on the balcony drinking the last of my watered-down Blanton straight from the bottle. He didn't help carry a single box. "You hate me," he said. Not really a question. "I don't have the energy to hate you. I just need to not see your face for a while." He nodded, took another pull. I believed the story. I just didn't believe he'd change. That was 2 years ago. Last month, I closed on a little house in East Austin. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. The mortgage guy raised an eyebrow at the eviction on my record. I slid the letter across his desk without saying a word. He read it, nodded, stamped everything approved. Needless to say, Caleb was my worst roommate ever. God. I was an influencer. It was the job I always dreamed of, but I had no idea how difficult it would be. Being an influencer is way more work than people realize, especially since the persona I created for myself was almost completely fake. I acted like I was fabulously wealthy, but in reality, I was a 25-year-old who still lived with my parents. And my parents, for the record, didn't have a lot of money themselves. At first, I faked my videos completely, pretending I was on island vacations when I was really filming in my backyard. Over time, I started getting brand sponsorships, so my videos became a little more legit. I had actual products that I could try on camera. Still, it was a full-time job, and there were days when I wished that I had just gone to college like my parents wanted. Last summer, I was in a pretty dark place. My follower count was flatlining, and another influencer that I collabed with ended up getting arrested. Long story, but he's a creep, and the scandal reflected badly on me just by association. I was really starting to think about quitting the internet completely and getting some random waitress job or something. At the very least, I needed to slow down a little. So, one day, I did a live stream announcing that I was going to be taking a wellness day at home. I usually did at least 3 videos a day, but I told my followers that they wouldn't be hearing from me until the next morning. Then, I switched off my phone and I locked it in my parents' upstairs safe just so I didn't have the temptation. Then, I washed off my makeup, got into my pajamas, and tried to enjoy the day without thinking about my online brand. Now, for the next hour, everything was wonderful. I watched TV, relaxed on the couch, and ignored all my worries. I realized that this was the only way to continue my influencer career. I couldn't be camera ready 24/7 anymore. I needed vacation days like these to recharge my battery. I was watching TV on the couch when I heard footsteps behind me. At first, I thought that my parents had gotten back from their vacation. "Hey, I thought you weren't supposed to get back until the weekend." When they didn't answer, I got scared. Somehow, I knew that the person behind me was a stranger. Before I could turn around, I felt someone's hand clamp down on my shoulder. "Don't scream." I jumped off the couch and spun around. The man was young and weirdly handsome, with a long scar across his forehead and a rope in his big hands. What do you want?" "Your money." I tried to explain that I didn't have any money, but he didn't believe me. He'd watched all my videos. He'd seen the expensive clothes I had pretended to buy and the luxury vacations I faked in the backyard. He believed all the lies that I'd been telling my followers, and no matter what I said, I couldn't convince him that it was all fake. He pretended to listen, but when it was clear that I wasn't going to tell him what he wanted to hear, he grabbed my wrists and tied them together with a zip tie. He moved so fast that I didn't have the chance to push him away. "Show me where you're hiding everything. Start with all your jewelry." Okay, I'll do what you want." I pretended to go along with his demands. He let me stand up and lead him to my bedroom. I decided to show him my jewelry drawer. I had a ton of fake stuff in there, and if he thought that all my necklaces and rings were real on my videos, well, then he might think they're real now. I opened the drawer, but up close he instantly knew that everything I owned was fake. "Where's the real stuff? Like in your videos?" I knew that I couldn't trick him, so I tried to make a run for it. With my hands tied, I couldn't fight back, and with my phone locked in my parents' safe, I couldn't call the police. So I raced across the house before he could grab me. I made it to the front door with plenty of time to escape, but I couldn't open it. The door was deadbolted, and I needed both hands to open the lock. With the zip tie limiting my movements, I was trapped. I saw my neighbor through the front window. He was walking his dog just 20 feet away. I screamed. He didn't hear me. I kicked the door. He didn't hear that either. And then he was gone. The robber stood behind me now. He gently placed his hand on my shoulder. He didn't have to be violent with me. He knew that I was trapped. "I'll untie you and leave as soon as you cooperate." "Seriously, I don't have anything. Look around you. Does this look like the house of a rich influencer?" I think he finally believed me. His expression went from patience to disappointment. And then he got angry. He punched me in the stomach, hard enough for me to double over. "Liar!" I couldn't argue with him. I was a liar. My entire career was built on lies. But that didn't mean that I deserved this kind of treatment. I tried to think of anything that I could give him. Anything valuable. Then I remembered my parents' set of silverware. They inherited it from my grandma. It had to be worth something. I asked him to follow me into the kitchen. He did. I nodded towards the cabinet where he kept the silverware. He opened it and he started rifling around. Now that he was facing the other direction, I looked around for something that I could use to attack him. There were knives on the counter, but he'd hear me if I grabbed one, and I didn't want to stab him. I just needed something heavy to knock him out. The toaster was too big. The mixer was still plugged in. He started to turn around. I was losing my chance. Without thinking, I grabbed some appliance that was attached to the wall and I slammed it against his head. One hit and he toppled to the ground. He was woozy, but still conscious. I didn't know what to do next. If only I hadn't locked away my phone. And then I looked down at my hands and I realized what I was holding. The house phone. I literally never used it before. I completely forgot that it existed. Did it even work anymore? Yeah, it did. I dialed 911 before the man could get to his feet. He ran off before the police arrived. When they got here, they untied my hands and they checked if I had any injuries. I still don't know who that man was, and I'm honestly not worried about it. He won't come back. There are other richer people that he can rob. Once the police left, I decided to give up on being an influencer. It was way too much trouble than it was worth. I made a video confessing to all the lies and telling everyone about the attempted robbery. I thought that would be my final video, until it went viral. I'm still an influencer, but now I'm more popular than ever. And I'm totally honest with my followers.
My boyfriend Jeremy and I were on a cross-country trip from California to Virginia. We'd been in a very happy relationship for 3 years, so I assumed it would be a great experience. It wasn't. By the third day, when we were driving through the ugly New Mexico desert, we started snapping at each other. He didn't like the music I wanted to play. I was annoyed at his loud gum chewing. It was all very minor stuff, but because we were trapped in the car without anyone else to talk to, things escalated pretty quickly. We just pulled into a gas station outside Santa Fe when the fight started. He wanted me to go inside while he was filling up our tank so that I could buy snacks. I told him we already had plenty of snacks and I didn't want to waste money. He started screaming at me, and I screamed back. It was pretty awful. Eventually, I gave in and told him I'd buy him whatever he wanted. Then I left him at the car and stormed inside. The gas station was empty. No one was at the counter. I went to the bathroom to splash some water on my face. I needed to cool off. Then I came out, slowly browsed the snack aisles, and picked up all Jeremy's favorites. Slowly, I was able to calm down. The cashier came in from the back door. I assumed he was on a smoke break or something. He seemed nice enough and asked me how my day was going. Great, I told him. But I think you could tell from my voice that I was still annoyed. He handed me my bag of snacks. He had a big smile on his face and said, "If you need anything else, let me know." I thanked him and left. When I got back outside, I saw that the car was gone. At first, I thought that Jeremy had pulled up to the side of the building because I was taking too long. But I looked around the car parking lot and found that the car wasn't there. I couldn't believe it. Jeremy left me in the middle of nowhere. This didn't seem like him at all. How could he do this to me? And more importantly, what was I going to do now? I pulled out my phone and called him, and he didn't pick up. It was a really hot day, and sweat oozed down my face. I walked back inside. "Back so soon?" the cashier asked. I explained that my boyfriend had ditched me here. I was so angry that the words barely came out of my mouth. The cashier walked around the counter and gave me a tight hug. "I'm so sorry," he said. "You don't deserve to be treated like that." I never met this man before, obviously, but I felt really comfortable in his arms. I could tell that he genuinely felt sorry for me. Eventually, he pulled away and offered me to hang out with him in the back of the store until Jeremy changed his mind and came back. It seemed like a good idea. At the very least, I'd be able to sit for a while and calm down. He led me to the little back room, which had a sofa, a table, and a small TV. The AC was on, so it was nice and cool. As I sat down, the man ran to the window and closed the curtain so the sunlight wouldn't be in my face. Then he sat next to me. "My name is Tom," he said. "Carly," I told him. It was awkward at first, but slowly we started talking. I told him all about my trip so far. I asked him what it was like to live in the middle of the desert. He seemed like a really nice, charming guy. He was also extremely handsome. Honestly, he was better looking than Jeremy. I asked him if he was dating anyone. "Not at the moment," he said, "but it's easy to find people." I flinched a little. That was kind of weird to say. We continued talking, and I noticed that Tom kept glancing towards the curtain-covered window. I wasn't sure, but it seemed like he was hiding something just outside. I stood up, pretending to stretch my legs, and I walked over to the window. "What are you doing?" he snapped at me. That's when I knew he was definitely hiding something. He jumped up to stop me, but I was too fast. I pulled open the window and immediately saw what he was trying to hide. Our car parked behind the building, and Jeremy still inside, slumped against the steering wheel. "What the? You weren't supposed to see that," Tom said. He stepped closer until his face was inches from mine. "What did you do?" "I heard the way he talked to you," Tom explains, "and I couldn't stand it. You deserved better. So while you were in the bathroom, I went outside and took care of him." "You killed him?" "I was trying to help you. You don't need someone like that in your life." I was too shocked to speak. He leaned closer and tried to kiss me. The man was a psychopath. In his twisted brain, he thought that he was being chivalrous, that he was saving me. I pushed him away. Immediately, his face twisted into a furious scowl. "You're just like all the others, you ungrateful idiot." He lunged at me, his large hands grabbing my shoulders and shoving me onto the cold floor. I struggled to twist out of his grip, but he pinned me to the floor. His shoulders struck the edge of the table, and the small TV crashed onto the floor. It narrowly missed my head. "I won't let you go until you admit that I helped you," he screamed in my face. I couldn't push him off me, so I reached my arm towards the shattered TV at my side. Desperately, I grabbed onto a shard of glass. It sliced into my palm, but it didn't stop me. In one quick motion, I jammed the glass upward, piercing him in the side of the neck. His eyes shot open. and his hands loosened their grip. I pulled away from him and jumped to my feet. He was on his knees, trying to pull the glass from his neck. "Don't pull it out," I told him, but he didn't listen. He yanked out the shard, and a splatter of blood burst out of him. In seconds, he collapsed to the ground. He wasn't dead yet, but he was very quickly bleeding out. I shakily pulled out my phone and called 911. By the time they came, Tom was dead. So was Jeremy. After giving my statement to the police, they let me go. I drove all the way back home. I still haven't told anyone what happened. I'm not strong enough. I can't believe that my whole life changed just because I'd gotten into an argument at a gas station.